milk a cow. You'll never get rich, you son of a bitch, you're in the army now.
What do you have to do when you turn 18? That's right, you get to sign up for the Selective Service, which is the draft. Quick, during which war was the Selective Service Act passed? That's right, World War I. Good job. Okay, another question. When was World War I? Correct, 1914. Okay, so we entered in 1917, but an easy way to remember: World War I, 1914, World War II, 1941. Super easy. Now imagine you just graduated from high school. You're not quite ready to go to college, so you go straight into the workforce. And then all of a sudden, a war breaks out between the United States and Iran. Why? Who cares? You're 18, you're concentrating on your next YouTube sensation stardom. Not enough people join, so then all of a sudden, there's a draft. What if you were drafted and you decided that, you know what, you're not going to go to war? Well, the fines, as you know, are pretty steep. So the United States, we're going to need more men in this conflict to fight the malnourished rebels in Vietnam. They came up with something called the lottery draft. Now this is not a lottery that you actually want to win. So on the nightly news, they would pick numbers. They would pick a month and a day, and if they picked your month and day, your birthday, then guess what? You were drafted into the Vietnam War. So look at this picture right here. I'm going to keep it on this picture for a while because I want you to find your birthday. Okay? So for example, my birthday is March 25th. And so if you look at 325, you'll see the number is 343. Okay, so that was my draft pick. The first 195 numbers that were picked had to go to the Vietnam War. So if you look at your birthday and you fall between the numbers 196 and 366, good news, you won the real lottery and you were not drafted into the Vietnam War. But my sister's birthday is on September 14th. Now look at her birthday, 9/14. Assuming that she was a man, not in college, not a conscientious objector, was completely healthy, didn't have any bone spurs, then she would have had to serve in the Vietnam War. Now let's talk numbers. Now there are 9 million men and women who served in the Vietnam War, of course, mostly men. And 25% of those people were draftees. Quick. How many draftees served in the Vietnam War? That's right, a little over 2 million. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but only about 17% of those who served in Vietnam actually saw combat, the kind of combat that you see in these Vietnam War movies. But that number is still very high. That would be about 1.5 million people. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone had an office job. Some people served in different capacities. Some people were in the cities. Some people did see some action. Some people were military police. And some people had office jobs. So it just depended upon where you were placed. To put it simply, it doesn't matter if you were a sniper in the jungle or, doing search and destroy missions, or if you were working in the city. It was still a very dangerous place to be. Now it's beautiful. You should definitely go. The food is amazing. The people are friendly. The scenery, gorgeous. After this coronavirus thing dies off, you should definitely go. Another interesting number, 80% who served in Vietnam came from poor and working class families. Now, not everyone fought in the war. Donald Trump wishes he had served, he says, but he couldn't because of his bone spurs.
Thank you.
A rare admission from Donald Trump, expressing regret about not serving in the military.
It's something I've always missed. And, I built and helped build the Vietnam Memorial in downtown Manhattan. To me, that was a very important thing to do.
He received 4 education deferments while he was at Fordham and Wharton. Then, September 1968, Trump, starting his real estate career, got a medical deferment because of a bone spur in his foot.
I had deferments because of college, like a lot of people did. Numerous deferments because of college, and I had a foot thing, and I had deferment for that.
The battles have no fixed front.
Trump often explains it was his high draft number, 356, which spared him from going to Vietnam.
That was an amazing period of time in my life. I was sitting at college watching. I was going to the Wharton School of Finance, and I was watching as they did the draft numbers, and I got a very, very high number, and those numbers never got up to.
But as it turns out, the draft lottery was never a factor when Trump was in college. According to Selective Service records obtained by CNN, Trump had been out of school for 18 months before the lottery even began.
Muhammad Ali was drafted and chose not to to fight because he objected to the morality of the war.
I will not go 10,000 miles from here to help murder and kill another poor people simply to continue the domination of white slave masters over the darker people of the earth.
My conscience won't let me go shoot my brother or some darker people or some poor hungry people in the mud for big powerful America and shoot them for what? They never called me nigger. They never lynched me. They never put no dogs on me. They never robbed me of my nationality, raped and killed my mother and father. Well, I'm going to shoot them for what? How am I going to shoot them? Them little poor little black people, little babies and children and women. How can I shoot them poor people? Just take me to jail.
The same system of oppression, and even though we may have different religious beliefs, this does not at all bring about a difference in terms of our concern.
The overall
So I want you to answer this question in the blend section or in your notebooks, whichever you prefer. And what are some pros and cons to having draftees fight in a war? As I mentioned, this is a very divisive war. Families at the dinner table will debate whether or not we should be in Vietnam. Young people, progressive civil rights leaders were against the war. The older generation tended to be for this war. And those who supported the war believed for good reason that we were winning because, believe it or not, we were winning. But you need the public support to really win a war. The Vietnam War was losing the support it once had. An example of that will be in 1968 with the Tet Offensive. Now, Tet is a really important year in Vietnamese culture. Tet celebrates the Chinese New Year, but it's not just the Chinese New Year. I don't want you to, when we celebrate the New Year, it's a big deal. But Vietnamese Tet is a really big deal. If you rolled Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's Eve, and your birthday all in one day, all in 1 week, all in 1 month, all in whatever, it's still not as big as Tet. It didn't matter if you were communist or pro-American, everybody celebrated Tet if you're Vietnamese. Now, most of the fighting in Vietnam will occur in the jungles, in the rural areas, but the North Vietnamese will use the Viet Cong primarily to do a surprise attack in the inner cities of Vietnam during this important holiday, and the Americans will not see it coming. And now, even though we win this offensive, they caught us by surprise and we suffered huge casualties. 3,800 Americans will die, but about 100,000 Viet Cong will die. So we're winning, but the losses are heavy. This could have been, should have been the turning point of the American victory in Vietnam, but the way the media portrayed this, they portrayed it as a loss. Walter Cronkite, I love him, but when he talked to the American people, he talked as if we were losing this war during the turning point of this war. And a lot of people, even those who supported the war at the beginning, will start to doubt why we are in Vietnam.
The 26-day battle for Hue was fought street by street, house by house, room by room.
Many people are hurting real bad right now. We lost 2nd Platoon. They was wiped out. And part of 1st Platoon. They lost a lot of people.
10,000 North Vietnamese and Viet Cong had seized Hue at the outset of the Tet Offensive.
And then you see there's one little tin roof sticking out.
And the Marines were sent in to claw it back.
If you had to choose the most important event of the Vietnam War, it certainly would be the Tet Offensive. It changed how people looked at the war. In doing so, it changed the war itself.
Walter Cronkite, America's most trusted newsman, went to Hue, the longest and bloodiest battle of Tet,
having to undergo heavy small-armed mortar fire as they turned
and came back to tell the public the war could not be won.
For it seems now more certain than ever that the bloody experience of Vietnam is to end in a stalemate.
And so basically, it was the stark images of the dead soldiers, the fact that this was a surprise attack, we didn't see it coming, and the way the media reported the surprise attack. All of this is going to lead to a huge anti-war movement Those baby boomers who grew up in Leave It to Beaverland are going to become teenagers, and they are going to rebel against authority in a huge way. They are going to protest this war. The president, LBJ, who promised us a great society, a war on poverty, will hear chants from his window. Hey, 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 LBJ, how many babies did you kill today? This is going to break his heart.
Just looked like sunk. And he said, I don't know what to do. If I put in more boys, there'll be more killing. If I take out boys, there'll be more killing. Anything I do, there's going to be more killing.
And in 1968, he's going to decide not to run for re-election. And he will retire at his ranch, and shortly thereafter, he will pass away. In our next lesson, I want you to get groovy, man, because we're going to learn about the hippies and listen to some awesome music. Peace out.